Manus flat on the canvas. We are ready to rock and roll. Second round of action. There is a cut on Manus.
Yeah. Jesus.
Martial arts chat.
My man B-Hop got dropped out the ring last night. I need a little judo baby. I need me a little judo baby, and let's do it, Ron. Let's hit me up.
You can see we're filming this. You've got a face for radio.
I've got a face for radio.
That's nice.
Martial arts chat.
Hello, welcome to Martial Arts Chat Podcast. The Roundtable is back and we're reacting to last night's UFC in San Antonio. Looking ahead to UFC 240, Edgar versus Holloway, as well as answering your fan questions. Thank you to everyone that got in touch on Facebook and on Twitter. Before I introduce tonight's panel, first just a quick shout out to our sponsors, A1 Fight Gear. A1 Fight Gear use the latest cutting edge boxing gloves for professional and amateur fighters, gym enthusiasts and kickboxers. So local and national gyms in the UK, do yourselves a favour, check out a1fightgear.com. If you want to get into shape, get back into shape, or whatever your gimmick is, go to beastgear.co.uk and use the coupon code MartialArtsChat. If you do that, you'll save 15% off your purchases for core sliders, straps, barbell pads, all sorts of strength and conditioning programs at different levels to suit your needs. So beast your goals with beastgear.co.uk. We're also sponsored by Feel Supreme. FeelSupreme.co.uk offers CBD oil and natural nutrition. They will assist your progress in diet and lifestyle, natural supplements and complementary services such as yoga, mind coaching and weight cutting programs. And finally, we're also sponsored by World of Martial Arts Television. WOMA.tv produces, finds, acquires and commissions all you ever wanted to know about martial arts. Discover techniques, exercises and forms from your favourite martial artists. And so to our panel here this evening, delighted to have him back on the round table from MMA Power Hour. It's Mr. Colin Crandall. Colin, how you doing, my friend?
Doing very well, John. So glad to be here with you great journalists, and really excited for this Sunday's roundtable.
A pleasure, sir, as always. From the One Punch podcast, also returning the awesome Mr. Bryan Lacey. Bryan, how you doing, sir?
All gravy on a Sunday, mate. Just chilling, watch some fights. The sun's going down and I can hear your sweet voice. So that's a perfect Sunday, isn't it?
Happy days, my friend, happy days. Finally, helping a brother out from Newsome MMA. It's my man, Mr. Kieran Cobley. Kieran, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, man, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I think this is the most short notice I've ever been called to a podcast, about 5 minutes beforehand. But it's always good now to be asked to come back and share my opinions on fights. So yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Cheers, man. I love having you on. Gentlemen, some reaction to last night's UFC in San Antonio. We saw it tied for the most amount of decisions. I think it was like 9 or 10 or something. Obviously a decisive victory for Leon Edwards, and I'm sure it moves him closer to UFC gold. And of course the controversial figure, which is Greg Hardy. I'm sure we'll get into lots of that later with fan questions, but let's hear generally how the panel reacted. I'll start with Bryan on this one. Bryan, some highlights and maybe some lowlights, I guess, from last night's card for you, mate.
Hey, listen, you started by talking about how many decisions there were on it. I'm going to tell you, Mrs. Lacey loved this card, all right? Because the way we do it in our house. I don't stay up and watch them through the night till 6 a.m. anymore. We get up in the morning, we have a little family breakfast, then I'll go off and I'll go into the front room and I'll watch the main card of whatever UFC's been on, so I don't get any spoilers. And because there was back-to-back first-round decisions, I was back downstairs playing Lego within an hour and a half as well. So,
nice.
So whatever you think of the fights, Mrs. Lacey was very happy that I was back down being a father and a husband for the day. But do you know what? It's one of those. It's if we're going to talk about the main card was good because of the finishes. I thought there were some amazing performances. I'm a huge fan of Dan Hooker. And James Vick is absolutely no joke, and I think that I thought that was a real tough fight for Hooker, especially off the back of the Barboza one, just because of how good James Vick's hands are. But Dan Hooker looked absolutely awesome, brought it to him, finished him, which was great.
Yeah.
Then you had the 2 big heavyweight fights, and they were both done within, I think, a combined total of a minute and 2 seconds or something like that. So quality heavyweight action there. And then our boy Leon Edwards did an amazing performance, and I think Dominic Cruz just kept reiterating the fact that the actual game plan and the execution and the fight IQ was all there. But I think that's almost the problem with Leon Edwards. He's superb. He is so good. If you look at him in between it's like the transitions between styles. So the takedown to start with, to get Dos Anjos thinking, understanding that if he gets 2 rounds ahead, then Dos Anjos is going to struggle to come back. His striking was amazing. That left hand was beautiful, but it's all very clinical. It's very technical. Whereas if you look at the flying knee from Masvidal, taking somebody out in 5 seconds, that's the sort of stuff that gets you bumped up the chain as far as title shots and in money as well. I heard something crazy that he only got paid about still a lot of money, $70,000 for that fight, which when he's on an 8-fight win streak, you'd think he should be really in that welterweight division. He should be on hundreds of thousands, not sort of tens of thousands. So I thought the main card was excellent. I enjoyed it because there's lots to talk about in all the different fights. For Leon Edwards, I think it was a performance that was amazing against Dos Anjos, but yet again, he's still in no man's land because I can't see him getting Masvidal or Usman off the back of that.
Yeah, you're right about Leon, man. He's very calculated, isn't he? He's very much cerebral in his game plan, man.
He's superb. And if you look at his resume now, you look at the fighters he's taken out there, Tumanov, Nelson, Cerrone, all of those, and the way he's done it has been amazing. There's been absolutely stunning as far as a resume, and if you look at his Tapology or his Sherdog or whatever you check, it's amazing. But there's nothing there's not one moment that's really propelled him to the top. The moment that almost should have made it was the 3-piece and soda.
Well, it still could be. Yeah,
well, it should have done, but Masvidal's past that now. He's dealt with Askren, and now he's on a different path. Whereas Leon Edwards, that is the fight that should have happened. He should have really taken the momentum for that. So I think he's so clinical, so technical. He is amazing. I'm a massive fan. But he just keeps ending up in this no man's land, and I think that's a little bit down to his style. And I really don't think he grasped that opportunity of what happened with Masvidal after the fight with Till. So yeah, enjoyed the card, but I still just feel a bit lost as far as Leon Edwards getting closer to that title.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe he does need like a flashy moment, like something like his brother does, a flying knee or
100%,
Yeah,
100%. I think both of them are superb. I think the fact that he's doing that thing of trying to prove that he can still get to this level by training in the UK and with the people around it is awesome. But he's missing that moment. He's missing that X moment. And it could be anything, whether it's a flying knee, whether it's something outside the cage, whether it's, I don't know, but it's something that is missing to finalise that what should be a cemented title shot by now.
For sure, man. Colin, what about you? How did you enjoy San Antonio? And I think you had RDA picked for the main events, all right?
Correct. Yes, I have not been the biggest fan of Leon Edwards, and I was definitely influenced and slightly change of heart after that performance. I know that you guys were mentioning that as far as the excitement factor and where he may be in the pecking order, as they say, may not be as high as he should be, but I honestly did not know that his grappling was that good. I guess I saw a bit of it against Gunnar Nelson, which was impressive, but Gunnar was a bit more of a grappler than a wrestler, and RDA is a good wrestler. And so, no, I was, I thought RDA had that one. I thought he'd alternate takedowns and powerful punches, and even though he was shorter, I thought he'd land them, and he didn't. And Leon Edwards was good. I mean, here's one thing I can say. As a fan since the first UFC that I am, and having watched thousands, literally, of MMA fights between UFC and originally Strikeforce, Pride, then Bellator, and all other organizations, One Championship, Ryzen. If you keep winning, you will continue to grow in popularity in your career, and you will continue to be rewarded. That's what kind of the UFC philosophy has always been, is that you win. Now they've penalized some wrestlers in the past that have won by just kind of lay and pray, as they call it, but they normally don't penalize strikers, even if they're kind of methodical and not exciting and don't have a lot of finishes. They tend to like strikers a little bit better. So I think there's a bright future for Leon Edwards, and I was impressed with him. Now I don't know how he's going to do now that he's getting up in the rarefied air position where you're looking at fighting the very best against in the world, but I think it'll be interesting to see. So yeah, I was impressed and with Leon Edwards and more. If you have any specific questions, I'm not sure how you wanted to format it. If you wanted to throw them at me, otherwise I could certainly give you my opinion on yesterday's fights, whatever you prefer.
Just generally how you surmised the card. Brian mentioned about the heavyweights there. Obviously, it was a combined, a minute. I mean, that's what you come to expect from heavyweight bouts, I guess, right? It's going to be over fast. The boys have got heavy hands.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll give you then a brief answer. The Hardy fight, Juan Adams had been on my show a couple times as a very nice guy, and that was just an unfortunate position that fight ended up in. Yes, it could have continued on longer, but he wasn't moving. It's unfortunate. Juan Adams is a better fighter than that, and Greg Hardy is not a world beater still. But yeah, heavyweights can end quick. The other heavyweight fight was actually a rematch of 11 years ago.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and guess who was in person to see that fight 11 years ago? Yours truly, Affliction Band.
That's right.
Yep. And one of two promotions by the now long defunct Affliction organization, where their clothing is still available, but no more fight promotions. So yeah, I'd love to see that. That was great. Andrei Arlovsky, the old dog, looked amazing, and yeah, I was pretty impressed. It wasn't, I guess, with all those decisions, wasn't the most exciting card. One thing I can point out really quickly is that James Vick did look absolutely horrible at the weigh-in. He looked very, very dehydrated and drawn and unhealthy, and many people pointed that out. It's actually the second week in a row that fighters that looked really bad ended up getting finished
the
fairly
Aspen Ladd
quickly.
One, right? Yeah.
Yes, with Aspen Ladd. Yeah. So I look at that in two ways. It's turning out to be a bit of a tip-off for sports bettors, and
that's a good point.
The second thought is that it's also a bit of an unhealthy thing that maybe other fighters need to try to really not have happen to them, because it's not a good thing when you're depleted already, even after replenishing for a day, then to get knocked unconscious or hit hard and be at least concussed is something that other fighters need to be mindful of, I feel.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, weight cutting, it's such... we've spoke about it so many times on this podcast, man. I remember we were lucky enough to have Gunnar Nelson on one of the roundtables, and he's a big advocate of simply not cutting, just fighting at his weight, I guess, fighting what he walks around as. And we were saying, I mean, this was back when was UFC in Glasgow last? About 2-3 years ago or something. And even then, we were saying, that this could be something in the future. Still doesn't seem to be the way, man. For whatever reason, you've got to have... they're athletes, aren't they? And they've got to have any advantage they can. And like you said, man, they're depleting themselves so much. What is the point? I don't get it, man.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't either. It's really just not a good thing. I want to throw out also really quick, big respect to Walt Harris. He took it to the Ezekiel choke master, Alexei
Yeah.
Olenek. Yeah, that was amazing. I'd love to see Walt Harris in there with Greg Hardy. I think Harris, the big ticket, would beat the crap out of the scoundrel Greg Hardy.
The scoundrel. Oh, here we go. Well, we're coming to that in spades, man. Hold the fort on that one, because we've still got predictions, sir. And predictions is for 240. I mean, I got to admit it. We were saying just prior to the show, it's not the most stacked card, let's be honest, but it's got two of my favourite fighters, guys, in the main event for the featherweight crown, and it's Frankie Edgar and Bless Mac Holloway. And let's play predictions. We'll start with Colin then. How do you see it going down for the featherweight crown, sir?
I'm excited about that card. We have 3 fighters that have been guests on my show participating. So I'm very excited about the overall card, but you're asking me about the main event, so I will absolutely reply to that. Exciting fight. Max Holloway coming off of that tough loss against Dustin Poirier, but at a higher weight, and now coming back down to 45. Unusual that fighters ever do that. Usually you go up and you stay up, but Holloway's doing it. Hopefully there's no problem with the weigh-in, but that's going to be an interesting fight. That's a fight people have wanted for a while. Not only that, but it's great to see Frankie Edgar, the old veteran, getting a chance, and certainly this will be his final chance.
You would think so, yeah.
Yeah, and what an amazing way to cap a career if he could beat Frankie Edgar. Not only that, but to be honest with you, in my feeling, Frankie Edgar, if I won this fight, I'd probably retire immediately and just say, all right.
That's the rumor, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it really could happen. I think it's a really good matchup. I I think he's certainly not going to stand giving away 5 inches in height or something like that. He's certainly not going to stand toe to toe and try to box with Edgar. But the key is going to be that he'll be able to do some wrestling and continue to take him down or possibly hold him down. I think it's going to be a hard fight. Could he do it? Yes, I think it's a bit unlikely, but I think it's going to be a really interesting fight. I think he's going to go for it, and he's going to leave all of it in the ring. And I think that he does have a chance. And a lot of people, wrestlers and fans of the older fighters, are going to be cheering for Frankie in that fight for sure.
For sure, man. It's got a nostalgic feel in it. Kieran, what about you? Do you see it being and still or and new in this main event?
I think, man, it's going to have to be an still prediction. I think Max Holloway's obviously coming off this loss to Dustin Poirier in his last fight, but even in that last fight where he went up to lightweight and it's still really good.
Yeah, he had his moments, didn't he?
He took it the whole distance. He got a fight of the night bonus for it as well. So you can't say that he didn't look himself in that fight. But I'm also excited to see this fight against Frankie Edgar. I think it's both guys have a similar sort of high intensity, high strike rate style that's very fan pleasing. But I think for me in the featherweight, there's only 2 guys that could possibly beat Max Holloway, and these are Zabit Magomedsharipov and Rodriguez. I personally think Frankie Edgar can't do it. I think Max Holloway will sort of put him to bed, but I think it's going to be a fantastic fight for the fans. Something that's going to be very fan pleasing.
Aye, for sure, man. It's got all the ingredients for just a great fight. That's the only reason that I'll be honest with you guys. That's the only reason why I'm interested in this card, and that's why I come with your predictions. Bryan, what about you? I mean, we mentioned the Poirier loss. Do you think it will have any bearing on how Holloway performs in this one?
I only think the only bearing it might have is regards to the weight. That's all. I think with Max Holloway coming back down again, that's interesting because we've seen him struggle. Make 145. He's big, dude. He's a big 145. He is superb though. And this is a tough one to pick because they're both so nice. Max Holloway is one of the he's become one of the fan favorites. I remember when he entered the UFC. I think at that point he was the youngest fighter on the roster, and he came in and this badass Hawaiian came in and he's made a mark for himself. He's claimed the title. What he did to Ortega, what he did to Aldo was unreal. Yeah. But Frankie Edgar has got a special place in a lot of MMA fans' hearts. All those wars through BJ Penn, Gray Maynard, Benson Henderson. Yeah. Oh my goodness! And that spirit, that heart that he's showing, grabbing the title as well. He's held the title at 155, has chased it at 145, and it's kind of always eluded him getting the shot. And a load of people were really upset that he got the shot. His last win was Cub Swanson way back in 2018, so and he's not fought since then, so people were a bit upset, but you've got to give him this.
Exactly, man. Come on, you can't be mad at that, right?
You can't be mad. He is an all-time legend. There's UFC Hall of Famers, and then there's UFC royalty Hall of Famers. He is well up there for me, and I think he's got a special style as well. I think he's got a special heart. We've seen that so many times, and if he is motivated by this being his last shot, maybe his last fight, and his last moment in that cage, then there's something about that. There's the Rocky story for me. Yeah. And do you know what? I'm sticking. Everyone will go the other way, I'm sure, but I'm sticking my money on Edgar because there's a full stop that needs to happen on this career, and if that's getting this gold belt, I think we're gonna see something special from him on that night against somebody who is very, very special indeed. So it for me. I'm sold on this Rocky shit. A Rocky moment. New Jersey, stand up. Let's do this.
Excellent. I love it. Fantastic, mate. Guys, time for the final part of the show. It's my favourite. We've got a lot to get through right now. Answering fan questions. Just a quick reminder to the panel. The one rule we have in the podcast is simply don't wait your turn, guys. The floor is yours. So we'll start with the Twitter questions this week. Let's see. We've got at Sapien Nape, who says, Musasi coming out and saying Lovato Jr. was on the juice. Is this just talk to secure a rematch, or was the guy really on steroids? Personally, I think he was. He was able to outmuscle Gegard in every exchange, even though he's a high-level grappler. Lovato's the grappler, man. I don't know. Don't know about that. Juice or otherwise?
I don't know about juicing, but I was at the event for that, and we did obviously the press after.
Sure.
And Lovato Jr., he looks huge. I mean, he's a big guy. I mean, but I don't know about juicing maybe. But whatever you say about that fight, he still came out with a lot of war wounds, especially on his like he got quite a bit of swell on his face. But I don't know about juicing. I think this is more. Maybe Musasi's got to tell himself this to go with the loss, or maybe Musasi's trying to angle for a rematch. But I don't think he's personally juicing myself. But with Bellator's lack of sort of USADA-esque policies, it's hard to say.
I think it's one of those things. It's after a fight. He's been asked questions about the fight and how he lost it, and he said similar things before. He's made statements alluding to people on juice and stuff like that before. So I think it's I think it's a little bitter taste in his mouth, and it's something that's just come out of it. So I have no idea until there's a completely transparent drugs testing thing across all promotions. You can say what you want about anyone. You can do the eye tests and all that. It doesn't matter. Musasi's moved to Bellator. He knows what they do and what they don't do as far as drug testing. It was his choice to. I mean, he was one of the contracts that UFC tried to keep, and Musasi actually was the one that chose Bellator over the UFC contract. So that's where he's at. That's what he's dealing with. And you know what? A fight's a fight. He's still one of the greatest of all time. When you look at his resume and how long he's been doing it, and you jump back to Pride way back in the day against monsters. So I'm sure it tastes pretty sour in his mouth, that one. But yeah, he's made his own bed, and he's sort of fighting in Bellator. So we don't, until there's a transparency with drug testing and stuff like that, then we'll never know what's really going on.
So yeah, I'll back up both of you guys on that. Well stated. Couldn't have said it better myself. Hard to say, what the reality on that is, but it would be unfortunate. I would. Lovato's a really good fighter, and I would. I don't know. I guess it's all about achievement and money in this sport, as in all sports, of course, because they're not doing it just for fun. But you would think that the first opportunity to fight for the title, a guy might want to see if he's able to do it, under his own power and, not cheat. But who knows? Hard to say. I don't know on that one.
Yeah, I remember we did the roundtable for that Bellator show, and John Ferguson, MMA Huddle, really clued me up on Lovato Jr. I was just thinking it was a walk in the park for the Moose, because I'm a big fan of Musasi, and I thought, well, he'll just hide behind the jab, go his own pace, and finish it whenever he wants. And he was like, no, don't sleep on this guy's grappling, man. This guy is even in MMA, he's legit, and he certainly proved that fight night, took the title, and it was all there to be seen. Yeah, I agree with you guys, man. I think it is sour grapes from Musasi. I remember the best rant was the one, I'm sure you have heard, the Machida one, where he was, greased up like a 12-year-old boy and all that shit. So he's got that in him, man. He loves having a wee rant now and then. But let's move on. At Voto Studios says, seeing a lot of comments hating on Hardy still. The man has changed his life around, obviously, and for everyone saying he keeps fighting nobodies, he doesn't pick his own fights. The UFC picked this guy for him.
On that one, I don't know. He's changed his life around, but it doesn't change your past, and he seems like a jackass of a guy. And he seems like he's playing the heel, which he is anyway. And I don't know. I'm just not. As George St. Pierre said to Matt Hughes many years ago, I am not impressed with your performance.
There you go.
Did you see who else wasn't impressed? Did you see Dan Mergliato
no.
raise his hand? So you've not seen this. I've got to send you this.
Oh, please, go on.
It's amazing. So Dan Mergliato raised his hand, and as he lets it go, so Greg Hardy starts doing the dance. Dan Mergliato just stares at him, shakes his head, and walks off.
I've seen it today.
It's a big Dan.
Exactly.
This is my take on it. All right, now, I am all for. Martial arts has changed so many people's lives. So people that I know, like firsthand, people that you find out their story on. Whether it's UFC Embedded or you read an article or the stuff martial arts can do for you as a human being is amazing. It can take you out of these dark places, give you focus, humble you, and turn your life around. That's something great. But like you said, the past is the past, but it doesn't change that. And the problem is what he's done in the past is up there with maybe the top 2-3 worst things you can do on this planet, and not just as a normal human being, but as an athlete. He has to cut weight to make 266 pounds.
Exactly.
So when you're talking about domestic abuse and all that sort of stuff,
Big boy.
that will stay forever. So what I get is, I get the backlash. I totally get it. But what I don't understand is why he's not trying harder. It's fine playing the heel. We've seen people do very well at that, like Chael Sonnen with his tongue in cheek and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But for me, he's got to do more. As in, like, he's really got to do what he does in the cage, but then outside the cage, he's visibly got to be doing something to either help, whether it's to do with the same issues, charities associated with it, whether it's just being a spokesperson for something, like just do something more than what you're doing, like standing there. It's finally getting these finishes. It's great you've got a chance to get the second chance, but with a second chance, understand that it's a dark thing you've done, and it's something you'll never shake. So if you're going to do anything, you're going to always get booed. You're going to always get criticism. But if you are going to change a few people's minds as far as how you are taking the second chance, then do more, do better, do more, and make sure whether it's in the light or not that you understand that. You understand why this still hurts people that don't even know you, why people get upset by seeing you under that sort of spotlight. So for me, I think it's hard to like him as a fighter because of all that's happened. It's hard not to understand he's tried to turn his life around, and he is turning his life around. But for me, as a man who has a daughter, just do more. Just do more to show us that you're looking for redemption truly, because it doesn't quite feel like that.
Agreed.
Yes.
Well stated.
I don't know if I should read this next one because that was a wonderful answer from Bryan Lacey, but on the back of Voto Studios, someone has commented, I've just noticed, at Born Twice, I'll call you out, said, why don't the UFC book him with Amanda Nunes? Interesting. I just read them, man. I just read them.
What was that again?
Nunes. They want Nunes. Well, Nunes has already sparked out Cyborg, so Nunes and Hardy is what they're looking for.
I get it now, yeah. Exactly.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess, Colin, you'll maybe know best. Clue me up. Was this guy a big deal before he went to the UFC? Was a big time in the NFL or what or not?
Not really. I will admit that I've been a big NFL football fan for many years, but not as much over the last decade as previously. However, if he was a big star there, he wouldn't have left there because the pay is much better for American football, right, than MMA. So no, he really wasn't. I think he's just, he I guess was part of the league and was high paid and was someone who I think maybe a few people have heard of, but no, he wasn't a huge superstar. I don't think you'll ever find a superstar player in the NFL, American Football League, switching to fighting, because just the pay scale for the highest paid is amazing. I think the lowest paid NFL player, and I may be wrong on this, the lowest paid is getting $1 million a year guarantee, I believe. Or
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of dough, isn't it? Well, let's move on. Fighting with Myself podcast. If Cyborg wins this fight at UFC 240, does she resign with the UFC?
Is this her last fight on her contract? Is this?
Oh, I don't know.
Where is she?
I believe it is.
I've seen something that says it is. So
yeah, I believe so.
It's definitely a weird one because women's featherweight at the minute, it's
that division, right?
Yeah. So I personally think she'll leave, and I think she'll go to Bellator. I think Bellator will give her a contract with shitloads of money, and she'll go there and she'll fight there after this fight.
Is someone's alarm going off? Sorry, what is that high pitch?
What is that whistling? What's going down?
I hear it as well. It's not over where I am.
There's crickets are calling from fucking.
Sounds like it. I'll weigh in then my opinion on this. Hopefully that ringing will stop unless someone's trying to ring in with Skype.
It's Area 51 calling, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like over here, Area 51. Yeah. Yes, I love it. That's probably what it is. That's the big mystery here, Roswell and everything. So, but yeah, that's an interesting question. First of all, I've got Felicia Spencer to win that fight. She was on my show, just a delightful woman, really, really nice. She's an online math teacher. She's a mother. and just a sweet person, a great grappler, a very tough, hard-nosed fighter. So I'm thinking Felicia wins. But if she doesn't, and regardless of that, I guess the question still remains. Chris Cyborg, I think, is only 31 years old, 32. And so will she stay with the UFC? It's so hard to say. I think if she loses, they may not even offer her anything, or they'll offer her, virtually the lowest pay scale around, and of course she'd leave. But if she wins, it's hard to say, because look, who is she looking at as far as high-profile opponents? Over in Bellator, you have the champion, Julia Budd, which would be an interesting fight. But that's kind of it as far as anyone high profile. There's a couple other women over there that are tough, but no one's heard of them. I think also there's Kayla Harrison in the Professional Fighters League, which is one division higher at lightweight, 155. But that would be a fight that would basically pique a lot of people's interest, and they could with Professional Fight League, they could make it some sort of a super event or super fight, or if somehow they wanted to be flexible with Kayla, they could make it some sort of New Year's Eve event for One Championship or Ryzen or something like that, where they have these two big Americans, Cyborg and Kayla Harrison, fight. But not a lot of people that have big names at 145. And Chris is definitely not going to 135. Only other thought would be, I think they're talking about a 155-pound women's tournament with Kayla Harrison and the PFL, and perhaps Cyborg could sneak into that. It'd be interesting to see what Cyborg looks like at 155. Probably
more natural.
Comfortable. Yeah, for her, yeah.
Let's just face it, there's no 145 division. There's floaters that come in and out, and this is still basically the leftovers of Ronda Rousey. She was brought in the hope that Rousey would beat Nunes, and then they'd either do a 140-pound fight between super fight. It was all set, and then Nunes did what she did, and then that has left, unfortunately, Chris Cyborg in no man's land. Felicia Spencer made a awesome debut, and she is fantastic. But then she said, when they said, who do you want next? And there's only one person. There's only one person left in that division. Yeah. That's Cyborg. So she gets the Cyborg fight. Nunes, for the first time after her fight, said, I'm willing to go and I want to defend my 145. To start with, she said, I'm leaving. I'm just beating Cyborg and I'm back to 135. But that's the first time she said, and that was after her last fight, beating Holly Holm, that she wants to go and defend that title. So that adds a little bit of extra to it. But you are looking at a three-person division, which is not a division. It's they're keeping Cyborg because she's under contract. They're giving her. She's not happy as well. You see it on social media. Yeah. So my prediction is, if that's the last fight on her contract, she'll either be off to Bellator, or her friend, good close friend Gabby Garcia, fights over at Rising. She'll disappear over there and make some money and just get back to being her, because that Rousey fight's never happening. That was the reason that the UFC brought her in. And they're not bolstering that division. They've not been grabbing names, and they're not filling it up. They're not building it. So right. I think this will be, if it's a last fight, this will be a last fight in the UFC.
I'm interested to see where you've got the she's not happy from social media, though, because her social, especially Twitter, it seems to be run by a third party, and all it is Twitter fans, tell me your favourite colours. So I don't follow it. It's so bullshit. It's is that right? Horrendous.
Is that what it is?
Seriously, man, just go and find her Twitter and just look down. It's ridiculous.
Listen, mate, it's 2019. Grow up, get on Instagram. That's
Fair play, man. Let's move on. At MMA Speak, if Max beats Frankie Edgar, will he try his hand in the lightweight division again, or continue to stay at featherweight?
Well, do you know what? This is the one thing that Max Holloway said when he moved to 145. When he moved to 145, he actually had his eyes on moving to 135 as well. He said
no way.
He wants to be the first three-weight world champion, and he believes bantamweight would be doable for him. He doesn't cut much weight for featherweight, so he had his eyes on that. And if you look at bantamweight now, with Henry Cejudo calling out all the old dogs, it's not a bad shout if he does win this one to maybe drop down and do a super fight. But it's unlikely. It's very unlikely that he'll move the division.
Agreed. Yeah, he didn't make weight to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov at 155.
That's true.
And granted, it was very short notice, but remember, he he's at that age now where you usually start to get a little heavier. I think he's 27 or something like that now. And so I think perhaps 3 years ago he was mentioning the bantamweight, and at that point it's possible that could have been somewhat realistic, but certainly not now. I would think there's zero chance same chance of us seeing Conor McGregor back at featherweight, I believe, as seeing Max at lightweight, you know. But Max going back, you know, I think the question is really valid. I think it depends on how hard this weight cut is. If he has a real bad time making 145 for this fight, you know, then I would say probably his next fight may be lightweight. But if that's what happens, then they would probably either force him to relinquish, the belt, to strip him of it, or he'd have to put it behind him or give it away. And so hopefully that won't be the case. And my thought would be that if he makes it, then he's got the winner of Zabit Magomed Sharapov versus Bryan Ortega, which if it's Ortega, I don't think he'll fight him again. So either Zabit, or you have Yair Rodriguez. You have I think there's someone else really good in there as well at 45.
Volkanovski, yeah.
Yes, the Aussie.
Just beat
Volkanovski. Yeah.
Aldo,
so I think So I think that will be the case. But if he has a hard time making this weight, then I would certainly say very possible that he would go to lightweight permanently. But if it's going back up to lightweight after this fight, it would be permanently for him.
Bit play at Else for Elf. Anyone know how well or bad the UFC BT Sport pay-per-view numbers did? No idea, man.
I saw something for they did less than 10,000 buys.
Fucking sells them right.
So that's not official, I don't think. That's just something I saw on Twitter. But
are you boys, like Kieran and Bryan, you boys are BT? Oh, well, I can't really chim Bryan on that, can I? Because you're a BT man. So, Kieran, then, I'll direct that question here. Are you a BT Sport man?
Yes, we've basically got BT Sport through broadband deal sort of thing. So we just can have it on the tablet and stuff. But
it's greedy, man. Sorry, but it is.
Sorry?
I'm just saying it's greedy.
It is greedy, but you know it's actually part of their contract. So I asked the question because I worked with BT before.
Oh, right, clue me
so
up.
I asked the question. I said, so how come you're pushing for pay-per-views? Because you're getting. They actually said to me it's the worst week since they started. The worst week of whatever you want to call it, complaints, interactions, social media that they've ever had since BT Sports started.
No doubt.
Yeah, no doubt, 100%. And it did diabolical numbers, mate. I'm absolutely sure of that. But they've got within their UFC contract, the contract they picked up last minute off 11 Sport. The UFC part of their deal is that BT have to deliver 2 pay-per-view events.
Oh, really? I thought it was 4. Right, so it's 2 a year. Right, I see.
Two a year.
I saw something about 4, but what I will say is I was speaking to quite a high-profile British fighter a few weeks ago, and he was even saying that he doesn't even buy the fights. So I don't know what that says about the British fans and pay-per-view, and how it's probably not the best idea to do that business model over here.
Yeah, it was teed up badly and all that sort of stuff. It just came out of the blue, and the reaction was like universal. Everybody dead upset because you choose BT Sports, and one of the only reason you would, if you're an MMA fan, is for the UFC coverage. But yeah, this bloke said they got absolutely slaughtered online for the months running into it, and the week especially of the fight. But they said they're contracted; they cannot not do 2 pay-per-view events. So they're going to do another one at least before the end of the year. So they got to pick which one that is. They're obviously waiting to see if Conor McGregor comes out, because that would be
it's got to be a big one, isn't it?
Aye. But the problem is you still have the same thing. BT Sports subscribers subscribed because they thought they were getting all content from the UFC, all the events. We're waiting up till 6 a.m. for it, so we think, if we're paying for BT Sports, why would you do that? But they're kind of locked into it, mate. So they're gonna have another terrible week before the end of the year.
I've got to say, BT didn't help themselves when it was announced they were putting a price hike on as well. And if you look at last year as well, compared to what you got for your money, last year you got all the pay-per-views, every UFC event going, and Cage Warriors as well. And now you're paying, I think, £7 a month more. You don't get Cage Warriors anymore. You get every UFC event, bar like 2 or 3 that are going to be now pay-per-view as well. And then you have to
do you not get Cage Warriors anymore? Was that Fight Pass or something now?
It's just Fight Pass exclusive now in the UK.
Well, there you go. Oh well, let's move on. At X Deep 13, let's say people go crazy and break into Area 51. They find a UFC fighter inside. Who is it and why?
Brock Lesnar, because he's made out of some paranormal shit.
Come on, Diego Sanchez is the only one. Did you hear all that?
Yes.
Come on, that's it. That is it. Diego Sanchez licking some moon rock and headbutting a wall.
Exactly, mate. That's who you got.
I don't know. All I can say is maybe the unknown identical twin of Jorge Masvidal, who is nice and sweet and loves people messing with him. I don't know.
Let's move on to Facebook then. James Lake asking a couple of questions here, so we'll try and get them all in. He says, thoughts on Brave London show coming up, John Lineker getting let go by the UFC, and the next UFC UK possible title challenger. Oh, title challenger, maybe Edwards, because it's fresh in memory.
I think that one's covered by the last event, 8-fight win streak. He should be the next one contending for a title. Arnold Allen should be working his way towards that as well.
Good show.
But then, Brave coming. I'm going to that show. I'm going to see this Brave show in London. They're making it a black tie event. You're getting dinner served at the event, and there's some interesting names on there. There's Cameron Else, James Brum's fighting again.
Nice.
And then they got some of the other ones. It should be interesting. I'm interested to see how they do it. They're selling it as what they're trying to do is get people to understand it's not a spit and sawdust sport anymore. It is an exclusive sport that you can have big sponsors attached to and all that sort of stuff. So
does it make it sad, Brian? Sorry to interrupt. Like, you know, you're saying like they're trying to make it glamorized or whatever. Does it make you sad in 2019 we still have to do that? You still have to convince people, you know.
It's a glad. Wait, I was in Rome the other week, and I went to the Colosseum, and I got all the goosebumps you should get because you think this is where it all started. But
Amazing.
we are those people still. We still stand on the edge. We still get drunk. We still bay for blood. And if you put a tiger in there, not many of us would complain either. So you're trying to wrap it into something. It's not. Boxing has kind of done it. Boxing made it this thing where you wore a bow tie and all that stuff. But you look past that first apron of that first circle of people back to the fans. It's the same people. It's the same people. That primal thing screaming for more destruction, more blood, all that sort of stuff. So. Yeah, I get what they're trying to do because they got the brand coming from the Middle East and they want to do something different. But it is what it is. These sort of sports, we will watch bare knuckle boxing, pigeons fight over a chip. We will watch whatever it takes. If there's a chance of violence and a bit of blood. So
absolutely.
So I'll wear whatever they want me to wear. I'm still looking forward to someone getting kicked in the head. That's it.
Well said, mate. Kieran actually, before he did me a favour and jumping in this show, had sent a question in. So Kieran, I can still fire this one out to the guys if you want.
Go for it. Ask Kieran his own question.
Right, okay, this is the Area 51 parallel universe. So Kieran Cobley asked to Kieran Cobley. No, Keeley versus MVP. Bellator booking in a nutshell, or a chance to promote a new Irish star?
Well, come on. Listen, MVP is class. He is dangerous and on the feet in particular, just lethal. Keeley is a decent striker, but he's not on that level. I think it's. I get why they've done it. They've had social media back and forth, but I think they're re-teeing up MVP. They know they've got a brand there. They pay a lot for him as well. There's a reason he's not left Bellator every time that contract's come up. So I think it's a tough fight for Keeley, and it's particularly because he's a stand-up fighter as well. I think Bellator. You say they're trying to bump an Irish star. I actually think they're trying to re-gloss MVP with an impressive victory in somebody's home territory as well, where there's going to be loads of hype, loads of reaction, all that sort of stuff. So it's a tough fight for Keeley. They're still winnable, but I think MVP is striking is on a different level. I've
got to say, I think, sort of going back to my own question, you know, this is definitely it's still a tough fight for MVP. I know Keeley's only got a 4-1 record in MMA. However, it is Waco World Kickboxing Champion versus Waco World Kickboxing Champion. So we might be seeing for the first time that someone's actually got the striking skills to match MVP, and he's not going to do like a daily and try and take him down. He's actually going to try and stand and fight with MVP. But I don't see Keeley winning, but I think MVP will win. But I think still it's too blatantly obvious that they're trying to tee up MVP is the big star, and they need to maybe be a bit more discreet about how they book this.
Yeah, because you call for, I remember, Kieran, you call for MVP and Daly, but, this time book it in England, and I'm all for that, man. I think that's where it needs to be. It doesn't have to be a Nottingham or whatever, but, that fight should be taking place in England.
They've got a show in Newcastle. Yeah, Bellator are meant to be doing a show in Newcastle at some point this year.
Right.
David Green confirmed they were doing one, so that'd be one to maybe get the tickets in, but again, if you put it over here, like Bellator London and Bellator Birmingham didn't sell well in terms of tickets. If you put something like MVP versus Daly in like Birmingham or Wembley Arena, I think you sell a hell of a lot more tickets and makes more business sense than sticking Keeley versus MVP and in three in Ireland, where I don't know what the capacity is, but it's a fairly small venue. So
8,000, I think 9,000
is that right?
The three arena. Yeah.
Cool. Paddy Patterson asks, will Askren ever become a champion or a top contender after that Masvidal loss?
I'll jump in on that no problem. Since I couldn't comment too much on the previous, although I would pick MVP to beat Keeley only since I've never seen Keeley fight, but I always think the Irish fight hard. I had a roommate from Ireland for a while, and they're tough, gritty guys. But yeah, Askren, that is the interesting question, how he recovers from this. What will he do? Will he all of a sudden start taking it seriously? That he needs to learn his striking, and can he do it? Can a guy who never really worried about it become any sort of a decent striker? And obviously, I would think that it may be a little bit late at this stage to try that. Although he certainly, I think, should take it seriously. Although, really, if you think about it, it wasn't like he was dismantled over 15 minutes. He was caught with a flying knee, so he really could resume everything he's done before, but would he be a bit gun shy now coming in? And that would be a problem, right? Because that was the whole thing about him, is that he would shoot in people with impunity. He would, he had no concern, no fear. He would just shoot in. Exactly.
It was like the opposite of Ngannou, reckless swinging, but then he met Stipe Miocic, and then we saw the Derek Lewis fight. So I'm wondering if that's on the cards for one Ben Askren.
Yeah, and if it is, he'll be done. But if it isn't, then interestingly enough, he could rattle off another 2 or 3 wins. It's interesting to see, though, who they'll let him fight, because prior to this loss, he was only going to be fighting, obviously, top 10, if not top 5 people. And now, certainly, maybe they give him a bit of a softer touch. But it'll be interesting to see. But, definitely a good question.
I think.
Go on, you go, mate.
Yeah, sort of looking at it, I don't see any sort of scenario where the UFC books a guy that has the quickest knockout loss on his record in a title fight. I think what's next for Askren is to maybe rebook against Robbie Lawler. They sort of forced him into it. He said he didn't want to do it originally. He didn't want to do a rematch, but taking a look at how that fight against Askren went, I think they need to maybe rebook it to show that he isn't like one Tony, that he isn't.
Yeah, that's a good show. Robbie Lawler's got something coming up, I want to say. Is he not got a fight?
Very big fight. He's got a huge fight coming up with Cobley.
Yeah.
Right.
That might be the fight to make after that.
So. There you go.
Yeah.
with the co-main event on that card, Jim Miller versus Clay Guida.
Oh my
Fucking
goodness.
Hell.
Yeah.
That was
time warp. Time machine fight.
Mate. Yeah, but I think the boys kind of said, but I think it will depend on.
And the winner of that fight is BJ Penn, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Filth, mate, filth. But with Askren, I think it depends what the UFC will now. Whoever they pick next, that says what they want to do with him. What you can say is, for somebody that came in and who has arguably one of the dullest fighting styles, he had the most follows. His interviews got the most clicks. All that sort of stuff. So his boom roasted thing really took off. All that. So he is Ben Askren. He'll fight the way he does. He'll beat a lot of people with that style. Robbie Lawler just almost put his head through a canvas with in the first few seconds of his fight. Gamebred Street Jesus kneed him within 5 seconds or 2 seconds and finished him. So I think he's going to struggle to. I've never seen him getting a title shot, to be honest. Now, but it's whoever the UFC booking with next was decide for me will tell me whether they want to keep him and they want to rebuild him, or they're out to put him to the slaughter. So we'll see what that matchup is.
Yeah, exactly, man. I think he was not lucky. I think it would have been difficult to get my title shot with his relationship with Uncle Dana, and definitely not now. I mean, that was it, man. When it absolutely done. Michelle Lyons on Facebook is asking, what next for Aspen Ladd after that brutal weight cut and loss?
So I'm going to weigh in a little bit on the weight cuts because it's difficult. I see a lot. I do the weigh-ins for ACA, and I see some horrific sights of people trying to cut weight who've made journeys across the globe and haven't managed it properly. I see people refueling badly. I see that the effects of it in the cage. Or one fight you'll see them look like monsters, and the next fight they're getting chinned and wobbly by punches. You'd never think that would do the same to them the fight before. But fighters sign miles ahead, usually. Now I say usually, a long time ahead of the fight to pick a weight and a date that you'll turn up and be on that weight. And that's the second time Aspen Ladd has looked awful, like dangerously bad. Getting on the scales. So if it's the wrong weight class for her, that's something she's got to ask herself as an athlete. If the preparation isn't right, as far as what she's doing to lower her weight before she water loads and does all that horrible stuff they do the week of a fight to make those last few ounces or those last grams of water come out for them to hit the weight that they've agreed. So she's got to have a look at a full camp and a full preparation, even physically. What is the weight she can make? Because seeing that time and time again is not good. Seeing her get dropped, yeah, it is awful. But like Jack Mason put up a really good post on Instagram, which basically said pretty much, look, if you sign to fight and you've got to manage that. That is a whole camp you've got to make that weight. It isn't a week. You've got a whole camp to do that. And there's all these variables that come in. You could get injured. But that's coming from a guy who manages fighters, runs shows, and has had nearly 50 fights himself. And I don't believe he's missed weight. So it's one of those things where there's all these variables. But for Aspen Ladd in particular, I think she's really got to look at her camp, at her physically, what she can do, what the detriment to her performance is, what she's gaining from cutting that amount of weight. And as far as after that, I think she needs a fairly big break because she got dropped. I don't know whether anyone agrees with it. It was an early stoppage or not. I thought it was, but to get dropped like that so quickly when she's
well, that's what it was. Yeah, she got getting dropped like that is the best way to say it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I think she's got to really have a look at herself as an athlete, as a professional, as far as making weight and making that part of her camp an integral part of her camp, because she's lost the fight. She's losing the fight before she gets in there. Twice we've seen her on the edge of something nasty, and we don't want to see that. As some people that are in the sport, we want the light to be shined on this positive, but people just take away those images and say we do horrible things to ourselves and all that. But like I said, a fighter signs on the line 6, 8, 12 weeks before they step in the cage, so they've got to manage that side of it as well, which is not. I don't agree with weight cutting. I don't like it. It's the worst part of the sport. It's the most dangerous part of the sport. But if it is part of our sport right now, then personally, you've got to look at yourself as an athlete and how you do it as a professional to make that weight safely if you are going to do that.
I think she's also got to look at who the personnel is she's working with for weight cutting. I saw on Twitter that the guy she was doing her weight cut, who's like a nutritionist or dietitian or whatever it's called, but he's been associated with some really, really bad weight cuts. Like, someone did a list of all the weight cuts he did and like put photos to go with them. And one of them was one of the most notable ones was Conor McGregor. Like the last time he was 145, and I think we've all know the photo I'm on about where he was just skin and bone. And maybe she needs to look at the personnel she's training, doing that stuff with, especially when like fighters in the US now can take full advantage of the performance institute that the UFC sort of built for fighters. So maybe she needs to look at maybe changing personnel around and working with different people and different dietitians and things like that to see if she can manage her weight a bit more efficiently.
And that's very good points and observations, but I'd like to hold Aspen a little bit more accountable personally. She has had trouble making weight, and the weight she's making, she doesn't look like a professional athlete at that weight. In fact, I don't know if you guys are aware of a term they say in the United States. They call someone a soccer mom. It's like the British, European football is soccer, right? And so some people referred to what her body looked like, and that's like if you look at the 28 or 32-year-old women that are taking their 7 or 10-year-old child to the soccer matches to play in school, the body looked like that, like the mother who works out once in a while. So I've had a professional fighter tell me that this woman should be fighting at 125 pounds at flyweight. Not at bantamweight, and from the look of her body, I would agree with that. So if she, the bottom line is she doesn't like to diet, and she's not looking like a really fit professional athlete. She's had a few fights. She's gotten by a couple of women, looking impressive, and some not. I felt Sijara Eubanks beat her in that last fight. I've never been a big Aspen Ladd fan, and the bottom line is at 145, she absolutely gets annihilated. Everyone beats her at 145, and I feel quite easily. So I think that her personnel would help, but also she needs to not be the girl that insists on eating the extra fatty food. I remember watching a bodybuilding documentary where the woman said, what helps keep her on target is that if she eats this extra piece of chicken or potato and the other girl doesn't, then the other girl wins the contest. So I think that Aspen Ladd has been the other girl, unfortunately, too long, right, with her diet, and has to stop. She needs to get her discipline going a lot better, because she's not going to be competitive at 145 pounds at featherweight.
I'm just laughing because here I am sipping my cider, and I'm judging
that
last piece of broccoli or whatever, Right. But yeah, no, I totally hear you, man. It sounds, listening to you guys, it sounds more like a professionalism type thing, and it's a serious business, man. You got to take it seriously for sure. Miles Painter, with a win at UFC 240, will Gillian Robertson become the women's flyweight division's next big thing?
I sure hope so. Sorry to jump in after I've just spoken, gents, but I love Gillian Robertson. She's been on my show, I think, 3 times. This is a Beauty and the Beast matchup. If you look at Sarah Froda's face, with all respect to Sarah Froda's fighting style. And I actually said this to Gillian on the last show. And she saw, but Gillian is a sweetheart. She's posting a lot of pictures that look sexy, but they're always in good taste on Instagram or Twitter or wherever. And she's a young woman, 24 years old only, and just is a sweet, sweet person. She's just like everyone's little sister who somehow likes to fight. I asked her if she was not fighting, if she thought she'd be almost in this good physical shape, and she said, no, I'd be fat. For sure. And she said she loves food. She said, I like the physical activity part of the training, but she said, I hate just the running and the working out that's not involving combat. And she said, and I love food. So she's an honest person. And I love to see that happen. She's with a great team, the American top team. Does this next win all of a sudden vault her to superstardom? I don't know, and I don't know that she thinks that either. But I know that she's very ambitious and determined, and the Savage, I think, has a great future. Don't know if it's going to be built off of this, but if she can absolutely annihilate a very tough Sarah Froda, certainly would help her cause.
Well, look, man, I'm sold. I don't know Gillian Robertson very well, but now I'm gonna keep an eye out, have a little look, especially at this fight. A fight that didn't really catch my eye beforehand, but now you've said all that, and knowing how good Sarah Froda is, that's one I keep my eye on.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, mate. 2
more from Facebook before we wrap up, guys. So Jackson Zane asks, I wonder if FaceApp can do a Tony Ferguson filter a la Cowboy, Dos Anjos, Pettis. I guess he means like instead of there's all bloody battered up. Yeah, I don't know.
That's funny.
There you go, man.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, because I said that to one of my mates. I said, have you seen this is the last 7 opponents of Tony Ferguson? How they look
brutal, man.
Fight? And it's savage, man. It is. Yeah. It is absolutely savage. And there's a picture of Tony Ferguson also covered in blood, smiling, smiling at his hand. Yeah.
Covered in everybody else's blood. That's the thing.
That's exactly right. But yeah, I watched the Pettis fight again this week after one fight of the year, and my God, man, that man is a savage in every respect. And Yeah, the fact he's still he's in that waiting to know whether he's going to get a shot against Poirier or not, or if Conor McGregor's going to jump in, Poirier or Khabib, whoever wins in Abu Dhabi, that is, and still not sure if he'll get the one out of that. That is crazy for me.
You're right, man. I mean, we were talking about no man's land earlier on. It's crazy. You're right, man. How that guy is in no man's land. My God.
Yeah, that's because his resume, not just the resume, but what he does to other human beings, high level human beings, like the Barboza fight, when he was eating those leg kicks and he just kept the pressure up, and then
Darce,
Cerrone, Pettis, all these people that are, and he fights them. He doesn't just dance around, and he's not. He just fights them, and he's different. He's special, and I think that the UFC are really missing the trick. I know there's been issues doing that Khabib Ferguson fight. I know that, but it was the fight to
that fight is jinxed, Bryan. That fight is jinxed.
But I'd love to see it, though. We've got to see it, though. We've got to see it.
How many times?
I'm changing my diet. I'm on wheatgrass. I'm doing yoga every morning so that my life is a little bit longer. Just in the hope that one day I'm sat there and I hear that walkout music and it's happening, mate. That's
100% with you, mate.
Definitely, man.
I think we're getting to that point now where if we never get Khabib versus Tony, it's probably arguably the biggest fight that's never got booked. I mean, look at some of the ones that wanted Fedor to get Fedor booked with, and we never saw them. And
Rumble Johnson against John Jones also.
Oh yeah,
things like that. Yeah, we can't. I think it's a fact that MMA fans everywhere would be brokenhearted to never get this fight, and I think the right time to do it would be after Khabib versus Poirier, whether Khabib wins or loses, and just get it booked. Make a main event any card.
Agreed. Agreed. 100%.
Okay, last one from Facebook, and we'll wrap up, guys. It's Alexander Wilkins who asks, will Uncle Dana make the fight this year for the belt Bumchin versus Cringe, in brackets Faber versus Cejudo for the bantamweight belt? Bumchin.
Wow.
Mate, if they do make that, that's nuts. I kind of get it. We just talked about Frankie Edgar, and we're glad he's got that 145-pound shot at last. Faber is arguably the best bantamweight never to hold a title. He's had those. He's always been close or whatever else. But he's just coming back after retirement. You've got other monsters coming through like Peter Yan in that division, Aljamain Sterling, and they're going to make Cejudo go and defend his flyweight title. So that's just on the grapevine that's what will happen first. So. Yeah, I think Faber's got to do more than just step back in there and knock someone out in 16 seconds or whatever it was, despite his previous resume to get to Cejudo. But you never know with the UFC, mate. You never know.
It's true, man.
You know, I love Uriah Faber, and I know you were correct when referring to the organization of the UFC as we were discussing, saying never to have a title. But, you know, other than that, he did hold the World Extreme Cage Fighting WEC title for many years, and that was under the same ownership of the Zuffa Group, Frank and Lorenzo Fertitta, and so he was a dominant champion there. And I remember Joe Rogan used to mention him before he had joined the UFC, and I remember I used to say, Uriah Faber, who is that? You know, and then I looked into it. You know, then I started watching WEC. You know, Joe was a huge fan of his, so. Yeah, you know, does he deserve or merit a fight with Cejudo now? No, but when Cejudo called him out and one other fighter, I forget who it was. I don't know if it was BJ Penn, someone.
Cruz as well, and Cody Garbrandt. He called them both.
That's right. And so, but you know, he wants a money fight, and I think he feels it'd be somewhat of an easier fight. Chances of Uriah Faber beating Cejudo are very, very slim, but it sure would be absolutely amazing at such a lightweight and at 40 years old to come back and do that. And you never know, stranger things have happened, but would a lot of people be angry if he leapfrogged so many fighters in both the bantamweight and flyweight division to fight Cejudo? I think people would be furious. And, you know, so don't know what's going to happen. The tough thing is, though, they can't put him on the shelf too much longer because at 40 years old in the heavier weight division, you've got something left, but the lightweight division, it's nearly unheard of in the bantamweight division or around that area.
Yeah,
it's definitely a weird one because if you think about some of the greatest sports movies in history, like things like Rocky and Like Warrior. This could be up there. If you made this into a movie, the sort of story about Uriah Faber coming back at 40 years old and going to fight for a UFC title, that'd be like a massive movie. But no one really wants it because if he comes back and has one fight and then goes straight for the title, it's just Dana White shitting all over the bantamweight rankings.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. You can't do it. And it's unfair to a lot of the bantamweights that are fighting there at the minute because they've been fighting, like some of the guys have been fighting, doing like 3, 4, 5 fights a year the past couple of years to try and get into the rankings and get that title shot. So I don't really want them to do it, but just hearing the words WC and reminiscing about teenage years about watching things like Anton Pettis' Showtime kick off to the side of the cage and things like we're about 15, 16 and
right.
School, the secondary school. So, man, it takes me back. It makes me feel old.
Yep, the blue cage floor, remember?
Oh, yeah. Those were the days.
Those are the days, man. And there's happy days ahead, guys. We've got it all wrapped up here in the Roundtable, San Antonio on the books. UFC 240, Edgar versus Holloway, two of my favourite fighters, man. Just round the corner. We'll be back next Sunday with a reaction show. If Facebook will let me, man, I don't know. I may be on a ban then. I may be in breach of my own copyright here for doing my own podcast. I blame the EU. Anyway, at this time, let me thank my panel here today, starting with Mr. Bryan Lacey. Bryan, always a pleasure, my friend. Let our people know all about the awesome One Punch podcast and where to follow your work online, sir.
Yeah, well, the One Punch podcast is on hold at the minute, so brace yourself for where we might end up. We've had a nuts week this week, so I wish I could tell you exactly what's going on. I'm one of those annoying people, but keep your eye out. So follow me on social media at Bryan Lacey MMA. That's Bryan with a Y, Lacey MMA on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And thanks for having me, mate. Good fun as always. What a way to spend a Sunday evening.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much, and a big thank you to Colin Crandall. Colin, tell the listeners all about MMA Power Hour, where to check you out live every Wednesday, right?
Absolutely, indeed, and I appreciate it, John, my friend. Always a pleasure, and it's a great time being on Martial Arts Chat podcast. So we are going on our 2.5 year mark. I think next month, late next month, or early the following, will be 2.5 years since we've been on. We go live every Wednesday night. We're in the United States, so nighttime is the middle of the morning, I think, in the UK. But we're at 6 p.m. Pacific time in the United States, streaming live on Facebook. And for the last 6 months, we've been also streaming live on Fight TV. That's FITE TV. It's an app you can download. You can catch our show for free, as well as many other shows on there. And then they also have options for pay-per-view events as well, just having had the Pacquiao versus Thurman. But yeah, we'd love to have anyone check in on MMA Power Hour, and sure do appreciate all the involvement, and we've been growing and grateful for that growth. And I want to thank you again, John McElroy. You are a fantastic host and moderator.
Thank you, sir. And finally to Kieran Cobley. Kieran, massive thank you for helping us out, my friend, tonight. Always a pleasure to hear your thoughts. Let everyone know all about Newsome MMA and what you guys have got coming up.
Yeah, so we have a podcast for every UFC event. So that's the Flash Predictions podcast, where we have Adam and John Prentice. They sort of break down some of the fights. We've also just brought Adam is now working on a system. A new site called MMA 365, MMA Play 365. Sorry, that's been running now for 2 weeks, and the first two, it's betting tips and service, and in the first 2 weeks they've took back-to-back profits. So if you like money, subscribe to that. But also just make sure you follow myself on Twitter at Cobley Reporting, and follow Newsome MMA on Twitter as well, which is at Newsome_MMA. We also do fighter interviews as well, and we get to cover events. So if you like post-event stuff and things like that, come and check it out.
I do great stuff, guys. Be sure to check them out. And if you've liked this podcast, be sure to subscribe on iTunes. We're live every Sunday, 8:30 p.m-ish, talking MMA. Go to facebook.com/Martial Arts Chat. Give us a like there, or follow us on Twitter at Martial Arts Chat. And I'm John Boy McElroy, and I'll catch you next time on the Roundtable.
Business like a boss with a new mobile plan from 3. All the usual stuff you could get from a phone contract, like unlimited data, plus 6 months of exclusive benefits from our partners. Spend less time accounting and more time businessing with FreshBooks. Build a website designed to work perfectly on a mobile with Wix. Get a receptionist that's not your nan at WeWork. And nothing says I've got this like a business card from Moo. Get the mobile plan that actually helps your business, because 3 means business. Search 3.co.uk/business for further details.